Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I finally have a chance to talk with you about the favorite books that I read in 2018. I tried to narrow it down to a top 5, but then I had 2 honorable mentions and I feel like maybe I should have only had 1, so we're just gonna leave this at my 7 favorite books that I read in 2018. These are all books I gave 5 stars to. These are the 7 books I gave 5 stars to over the course of last year. You can't really tell, but I'm still in my pajamas. It's just that kind of day. Wyatt woke up from 2:30 to 4 a.m. last night, so Mama's a little tired. Put my phone on silent at the beginning of the video this time. Slowly but surely I'm learning. I do not have very many of these books. Actually, I only have 1 series and 1 standalone physically to show you guys, but I'm sure you're familiar with what the covers look like for many of these books. I'm going to stop rambling. I already told you 5-star reads, favorite books of 2018. Let's get started. So first up, I have Scythe by Neal Shusterman. This is a young adult sci-fi series, and it is a utopian / dystopian novel that has evolved from our own. So the Thunderhead has evolved out of what we use today, the Cloud, and he has all of the world's knowledge contained in him. He's called a him even though he's kind of like an AI, so he's genderless, but anyways. And he has solved all of the world's problems. There is no diseases, no famine, no war. All of the cities now house many more people than they have before because he's figured everything out logistically. Humans no longer die at all. If you get to an older age, you can reverse your own clock, and basically humans have become immortal. However, you have to control the world's population. There is going to be a maximum population that the Thunderhead can control or keep the disease at bay, keep food in people's bellies, that sort of thing. So we have a group called the Scythedom, and these scythes are kind of like assassins. They are allowed to kill, it's not illegal, and when they kill people, they are officially permanently dead. I found this book so interesting. The political intrigue is so complex. It's interesting to see how in a world that is perfect, although as you read the story you realize that it's really not, but that was the idea, that there's still corruption, there's still people who are greedy, that want more out of life, that always want things to change or be better for them, that sort of thing. You're following 2 young teenagers who have been chosen to become apprentices to become scythes, and only one of them can become a scythe, and you follow their journey together. I just really loved this story. This was one of my first introductions into sci-fi, and I turned around and read quite a bit of sci-fi over 2018 after that. I also read Thunderhead. I gave that one 4 stars. Scythe I loved more, and there will be a 3rd in the series coming out later this year. Next up, I don't think anybody's going to be surprised by this. I have the Shades of Magic trilogy here by V.E. Schwab. I gave 5 stars to all of them, I think. No, I gave 5 stars to the first 2, and I gave 4 stars to the last one. That was largely to do with my mood while reading it, so I'm looking forward to rereading the series either this year or next year and seeing how I feel, and I want to annotate them too, I believe. This is an adult fantasy trilogy, and in this world there are 4 parallel Londons. Think of them as stacked upon each other. There is Grey London, where there is like no magic, so like our London, Then we have Red London, which is flourishing with magic. It smells like roses. Everything has a rosy hue to it. The people are happy and full of magic. Then we have White London, where they are starving for magic. It is dwindling. The people are savage there for the most part. They're willing to kill for any little bit of magic that they can get their hands on. And they always are rotating through their ruler because people keep fighting to get into that position. And then lastly, we have Black London, which magic has blown through, devoured absolutely everything. It's desolate. Is that how you pronounce that? No magic left, no people left, nothing. It's basically like a dead zone. And you have three main characters. Kel, who is like a liaison between all the Londons because he is an Antari who can travel between the different planes. Regular people cannot. So he brings messages back and forth between the kings in each London except for Black London. Kel resides in Red London. Delilah Bard is from Grey London, and she is a thief who wants nothing more than to be a pirate. So she's basically like a street rat in Grey London. And then you have Holland, who lives in White London under the ruling of terrible kings and queens. I love the series so much. It's full of magic, again, full of political intrigue. I really love that. Is that like a premise, a trope? What would you call that? Clearly a book expert. Just kidding. I would highly recommend this series. I got my mom hooked on it too, and fantasy isn't typically her favorite genre. Just go give it a try if you haven't yet. Next, I have Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This is a YA sci-fi series as well as Scythe was, but this has a bit of a horror twist, and this is like a stereotypical sci-fi, at least what I had thought sci-fi was, which is why it wasn't really a genre I was too interested in before last year. This is set in space. There's been an attack on a planet, so humans have been spread out across the universe. They're doing things on different planets. This particular planet is a mining planet, so it's like a mining colony, mining families that live there. There's been an attack on that planet, and then a battle carrier comes to the rescue. Like they sent out an SOS basically and rescued as many people as they could on the 3 spacecrafts that they had in their fleet. But the attackers are chasing them through space, trying to kill them so that nobody knows what actually happened. And then there's like a sickness, like it definitely has a horror twist. You have a rogue AI who is sick of having orders from the humans when he knows better, and he's locked out all the human activity and just starts doing things correctly as he sees it, with a purely rational thinking. He has no compassion. He is an AI, and it turns very dark and scary, at least in my opinion, and I'm a big chicken, so you may not find it scary at all. I read the first 2 in that trilogy this past year as well. Illuminae I loved more than Gemina, which is the second in the series. I gave Gemina 4 stars, I believe, because I just really didn't feel attached to or moved by, I don't really know what I'm trying to say, by the big twist in that one. It was just a little too far-fetched for me, and maybe that's because I don't read a lot of sci-fi. So if you do read a lot of sci-fi and have read the series, let me know what you thought of it before. I don't want to give a spoiler or anything because it's like the big plot twist in the second book. I was just kind of like, that was a little too far-fetched for me. Next up, Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. Duh, obviously. Freaking loved it. Probably... I have a really hard time picking favorites. Like, I don't do favorites videos on my beauty channel anymore. Like, I don't have a favorite color. I don't have a favorite food. Like, I can't pick favorites, true favorites. But Strange the Dreamer, I fell so in love with this story. It is a YA fantasy, but it's like a whimsical, lyrical, slow-paced type of fantasy. It's not like fast-paced, action-packed at all, but the world is so interesting. So you're following Laszlo Strange, who was an orphan adopted by monks, which is why his last name is Strange. Like, all the children that the monks took in got Strange as their last name. Then he was delivering something to the library and stayed there. The monks never came looking for him, basically, and he became a librarian and an expert on the lost city of Weep. And he's always been fascinated by Weep, but one day when he was a small child, he was playing his game of Weep, like pretending he lived there, and all of a sudden the name of the city just disappeared out of his mind, and in replace of the city's name was just the word Weep. So he wants to find out what the city's real name was, why no one has heard from anybody from the city of Weep in centuries, and he finds as much as he can on the subject. And then one day a caravan arrives from the city of Weep, collecting experts in various fields, so alchemists, engineers, people who deal with explosives, I don't remember what they're called, mathematicians, like experts in all kinds of different fields to solve a problem, which they won't tell them until they get there. And I can't wait to read Muse of Nightmares. I hope that Laini Taylor doesn't stop at the duology. I really hope that she continues on. Maybe Muse of Nightmares wraps everything up in the perfect little bow, but even so, like, I love the characters so much, I just want more. Next, I have A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I'm sure everyone knows what this book is about. It's a YA fantasy series, loosely based, like the very beginning part, on Beauty and the Beast. You're dealing with humans and fairies and that sort of thing, and it's steamy, it's trashy, it's problematic, but I freaking loved it. It was so entertaining to me. It got me out of my reading slump. It's a decently sized book. I don't have the pages written down here in front of me, but I flew through that so quickly. And I know it's problematic. Like, you're dealing with imprisonment, like this girl is kidnapped basically, or forced to come with them against her will. She's forced to fight in battles wearing like the skimpiest, most scantily clad clothing ever. It's so impractical and sexist. I get it, but it was so entertaining. Like, I'm not telling you that it is a literary piece of art. It's not. It's definitely not, but it was so entertaining and I loved it, so therefore, to me, it deserves to be on this list. Next up, Nevernight by J. Kristoff. This, I hear some people say it's YA, some people say it's adult. I think it's one of those like middle areas. Like, it's quite gruesome to be YA in my opinion. And I've seen it in the adult section at my bookstore, so I guess you have to be the judge of that. You're following Mia Corvair, who goes to assassin school, and there's magic involved, and that's all I'm going to say about it, because or else I feel like it could be a little bit spoilery. She's looking for revenge. She is going to get her revenge by learning how to be an assassin. And it is a fabulous time. I absolutely hate the footnotes though. I get why they're there. Like, they give you more insight into the world, into the history, where you are, like in terms of setting, things like that. But sometimes it's just sarcastic remarks. Like, maybe you were thinking that while you were reading in your head, but then it has like, sorry about that, my camera battery died and literally scared the shit out of me. I was talking about how much I hated the footnotes in Nevernight, and I tried to ignore them, but knowing that they're there in and of itself is distracting, let alone when you come up to the asterisk, the number, the cross, like whatever it was, as you're reading through the chapters, knowing that there's a footnote that you're supposed to pause and read over, I found distracting. So I felt like I needed to read it, but it took me out of the story each and every time. I can see how the footnotes can be relevant or, you know, but I felt like a lot of the information that was given in those footnotes would have been better suited to like a companion little manual, encyclopedia of the world type of thing, like something really small. Maybe it could have been for the whole series, something like the Shadowhunter Codex when you're reading the Shadowhunter series, like they're referring to this book that you can then buy, if that makes sense. Like, it's interesting to find out more about the world, more about the history, those types of things, but it wasn't completely crucial to the story as you're reading it. Maybe it's something that if the series becomes one of your absolute favorites, you can pick up something like that. I don't know, like, it doesn't exist. I'm just kind of trying to explain how maybe I would have preferred to receive that information. But despite that, I still give it 5 stars because I was obsessed with the storyline, and the footnote thing is more of like a formatting thing I didn't really love, not that I didn't love the entire story, if that makes sense. I have one last book. This is the one that I forgot when I first made my list. I read this in October, I believe, or maybe November. This is The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson. This is an adult thriller. This is probably one of the only thrillers I've ever read. I've read more mystery type books before, but nothing like actually creepy, suspenseful, kind of scary. It's not horror, but, you know, thriller. That's the genre, Emily. They know. In this story, you're following Ted Severson, who just discovered, or like, he suspected his wife was cheating on him with their contractor. He went and bought binoculars and hid in a bush and saw his wife cheating on him with a contractor. And he had a business trip planned for the following day, the following week, sometime close in the future, to go to London, I believe. And he's at the bar airport drinking heavily, where he meets Lily Kintner. I never really knew how to pronounce her last name. It's Kintner. Anyways. And she's kind of like, why are you looking so sad? Blah, blah, blah. He was a little hesitant at first, but he was drinking a lot. So he started telling her about how much he wants his wife dead because she's cheating on him and she's a horrible person. He's obviously intoxicated, wasn't literally planning a murder, but Lily takes him seriously, and together they conspire to kill his wife, Miranda. There is a very early plot twist in this book that had my head spinning. Like, you expect there to be a bit of a plot twist, like, after the halfway point, like, around 3/4 of the way through a book. Really any book, mostly thrillers. This happened in, like, the first little bit of this book. And it threw off everything I thought I knew about what was going to happen in this book. I was on my toes the whole time. This is another book I devoured. I'm a mom of 2. I'm busy. I have 2 YouTube channels. I have a husband that requires my love and attention as well. Like, as much as I would love to be able to sit down and read half of a book in a day, a full book in a day, I literally cannot do that if I want to remain sane and get some sleep at some stage. And this is a book that I could not put down. I was cooking supper like this. My husband had his friends over, and I was like kind of talking to them, like joining in the conversation with the book in my hand. Like, I could not put this down. I was up until the wee hours reading this book. I just loved it. The plot twists were amazing to me. Now, like I said, this is one of the only thrillers I've ever read. It's definitely the only thriller I've read in the last few years, so I don't even remember if I've read any others. And maybe that is why the plot twists were so unexpected to me, but I loved it, and now this is definitely a genre I want to read more of. I will get into like specific goals in regards to genres, etc. in another video, but I highly recommend this book. I want to read more of Peter Swanson's books. I've heard mixed reviews on a few of his other works, but I want to read them anyways. So those were my top 7 books for 2018. I feel like I probably should have thrown in an extra one just so it's like a better title, like top 8 in 2018 or something, but I wanted these to be like my genuine top favorites. I guess technically it could be top 8 if we include A Darker Shade of Magic and A Gathering of Shadows, because they are both 5-star reads, but basically I don't know what I'm calling this video yet. I'd love to hear what your favorite books that you read last year were. I would love getting more recommendations to add to my never-ending TBR list. If you enjoyed today's video, please do give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!